Welcome to Leading with Purpose, the podcast that's dedicated to helping you become the leader you aspire to be. Join us on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and inspiration as we explore the world of leadership and personal growth. In each episode, we will explore the art and science of effective leadership, bringing you insights, stories, and strategies from experts and thought leaders across various industries. And now your hosts, Dawn Marie Bornheimer, Maisha B. Hoye, Janelle E. Taylor, and Dr. Sharon H. Porter. Welcome to Leading with Purpose, the podcast that's dedicated to helping you become the leader you aspire to be as you lead, empower, inspire, and achieve. I am Dr. Sharon H. Porter, Editor-in-Chief of Vision and Purpose Lifestyle Magazine.
Hello, everyone. I'm Janelle E. Taylor, founder and CEO of the JTOA Corporation, where we optimize people, performance, and products.
Hi, everyone. I am Maisha Hoye. I'm the CEO of BSHG, which manages and markets Q-Buy, Maisha Lemonade Stand, and Customer First Marketing.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dawn Marie Bornheimer. I'm the founder and Chief Impact Officer for Mission Inspired Consulting.
And we are super excited to welcome Ms. Marcia Dawood. She is an early stage investor who serves on the Securities and Exchange Commission's Small Business Capital Formation Advisory Committee. She is a venture partner with Mindshift Capital, a member of Golden Seeds, and the Chair Emeritus of the Angel Capital Association, which is a global professional society for angel investors. She is also an associate producer on the award-winning documentary Show Her the Money. She's a TEDx speaker and the host of the Angel Next Door podcast. Welcome, welcome, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. We are all super thrilled and have questions, so many questions for you. And so I'm going to kick it off and just ask you about your journey as an early stage investor. It is quite impressive. What sparked your passion for supporting startups and diverse women-led companies? And most importantly, how did you get started in angel investing?
Yeah. So in 2012, I was invited to an angel investing meeting. And I remember saying, wait, what? What's angel investing? I don't even know what that is. And I went to this meeting and I walked in and I felt a little awkward because I was one of the only women in the room. But I was getting to hear local entrepreneurs. I was living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the time, and I was absolutely fascinated to learn about the things that they were working on because I had been working in corporate America, kind of doing the same thing and expecting different results, kind of corporate thing. And I go to this meeting and I get to hear about these entrepreneurial ideas, like these innovations that people are working on. And they're coming out of universities that are nearby. And I mean, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I thought this only happened in like big places like Silicon Valley and New York and stuff like that. I didn't think this really happened in Pittsburgh. But it turns out that there are entrepreneurs and founders working on really amazing innovations in every city, in every town, all across the world. So I'm at this meeting and I'm just thinking to myself, wait a minute, I had to have been living under a rock. How did I not know about this? And so I start going to more and more meetings and learning about it. And I'm, at first I kind of don't know the lingo and I'm not 100% sure what they're talking about, but I pick it up, it's not too hard. And people are very helpful and they want to make sure that you understand what's going on. So, pretty quickly you can kind of assimilate. But then I ended up moving, like probably about a year or two later, to New York City. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to be living in New York City now. I bet there's lots of stuff going on in angel world there, which there are. But I joined a group there and started to realize, oh my gosh, I had no idea how little funding goes to female founders. And even less funding goes to people of color, and even less funding goes to founders who are trying to solve problems for people with disabilities. So I'm like, wait a minute, there is a huge disparity. Like 90% of the funding is going to these white guys. So how do we change that? Like, how do we get more people involved? So over the last couple of years, I've just tried all different kinds of ways to invest, thought about the ways I could help entrepreneurs, the way I could get other people to know about that they could help entrepreneurs too. And that's kind of what set me all on this journey of like starting a podcast, writing a book, doing a TED Talk, all that kind of stuff.
I really love it because you did not know anything about it originally, and you were so engrossed with it that you learned, you began to research, do the work behind it, and look at where you are now. It's really an amazing journey, and so many people can learn from that. So thank you so much for all that you're doing for small business owners, and especially women led. Thank you.
Yes.
So I can't even tell you how excited I am to have you on the podcast. I work with startups for the last over 10 years. I hear many, many ideas, and it's just sometimes overwhelming, the information that comes out and having to decipher. But also, I wanted, since you are here and we're speaking to people all across the United States, could you talk a little bit more about the difference between an angel investor and a venture capitalist? It's confusing to me. I don't know how to navigate that language.
Yeah, and you'll have to, in the show notes of the podcast, put a link to my website because I did a rap battle of angel investor versus venture capitalist. And I basically did this whole rap where I was two different characters explaining the difference between an angel investor and venture capitalist. But I'll give you the short of it without the rap.
But we will post it in the links for sure.
Yeah. Which is basically angel investors write checks out of their own checkbook, and a venture capitalist is investing with other people's money. So you've got two different types of investors. So think about an angel investor can make decisions not just from a financial standpoint only. And yes, let me just be very clear. We do want to make a financial return. We are investors looking for a financial return. However, as an angel investor, it is a risky asset. And at the Angel Capital Association, we do tell people, look, you should only be investing 5 to 10% of your investable assets into an alternative asset class like angel investing because it's risky. It's illiquid, meaning that if I write a check into a startup company, it could be 5, 7 years before that company has some type of an exit, we call it, where they get bought by another company or something like that. And I would get my money back. So definitely, I don't want to be putting my kids' college fund in there because what happens when they go to college and now it's locked up in that, right? So you got to kind of be careful about that whole thing. But angels can also write checks from their heart because they're thinking to themselves, well, you know what? I really want to be involved in helping to make a treatment for, and you could just kind of fill in the blank of whatever disease or ailment that you'd really like to help. Or let's say you're interested in helping to eliminate poverty or help with the climate. All of these things are things that angels, they get involved with very early. Angels come in at an earlier stage usually than venture capitalists. Some venture capitalists nowadays do come in at early stages, but we're coming in at those early stages to really help build the company and get them to like a place where we can not just give our capital, but we can also give our network, our expertise, we give them help, growing a company and building a company so that it scales and is actually really attractive to be acquired by a bigger company, that takes a lot of hard work. So they need more than just money. So that's kind of how we got the name Angels, because we do so many things besides just give money. And then the venture capitalists, they have bigger checkbooks. We have the little checks, they usually have the bigger checks. And so we work together to, help them also find the companies. And we like to have them come in and help us to grow the company once it gets to a certain point.
That is a great explanation. And I got to say, everyone should visit her website because I was on there this afternoon and I learned more in 10 minutes.
Oh, good. Yay.
Because everything of the way it's structured. So absolutely visit her website.
This is a great segue, Marcia. And thank you for that question, Maisha, because I was going to ask, for folks who think angel investing is just for the rich and well-connected, how can the everyday individual, and Marcia, you talk about it frequently, how can the everyday individual invest, as an angel investor, that you said kindness and things that come from the heart, but how else could they invest in their community and small businesses?
Yeah, that's a great question. So back when I started, even in 2012, which wasn't that long ago, you did have to invest at a certain level of cash. You would also have to have a certain level of wealth and income. It's called the accredited investor definition. It's a little bit deceiving about the name of the definition, accredited. It makes it sound like you had to pass a test or do something. No, it simply means you have a certain amount of income or wealth. So $200,000 if you're single, 300,000 if you're including a partner, or $1 million in net worth minus your home. So that's a fairly high barrier to reach in order to be considered an accredited investor. But in 2016, the Securities and Exchange Commission changed the rules, and now there's something called equity crowdfunding. It basically is a little bit like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, or maybe you've heard of GoFundMe, right? So that's where the crowd kind of pools their money together, and they might get a reward or they might make a donation in order to help a cause. Well, in equity crowdfunding, you can pool resources together and everyone gets a small percentage of ownership into the company. So that is equity crowdfunding. There's also something called debt crowdfunding, which is very similar, except instead of getting ownership into the company now, the company would pay back the investors over a period of time, a little bit like a loan, but you get to help out your community. So a good example of somebody who might do a debt crowdfunding campaign would be like your local coffee shop or somebody in your community who has a small business. They need a little bit of capital to get started, not a ton, but they know that they really want to involve the community, and that will help their investors become customers become investors. It's kind of like a nice switching around, and then that really helps that business to grow. So when we talk about angel investing, in a lot of cases, we're talking about startups. Now, the term startup is really about a scalable business, meaning that you're going to be able to start your business. You could branch it out to like everybody in the country, the world, a very big way. You're going to be able to take some of that market share and be able to get your company to grow from a small company to a much bigger company. Well, a lot of small businesses, there's a lot of small businesses, especially here in the US. So those small businesses, in a lot of cases, they might not have that scalability, and that's okay. So what I like to do is talk to entrepreneurs about kind of where they are, where and what is it that they really need. Sometimes I'll talk to entrepreneurs and they'll be like, "I just need money. I just need to raise money. I need to raise money right now." And I'm like, "Okay, calm down. We need to like take a step back. Let's look at this a little bit. Do you really need to raise money? What kind of money do you want? Do you really need to give away equity in your company in order to get the funding that you need, or what's the story?" So I started to see, especially after 2016, that there were a lot of different ways that people could do this. Except I would talk to potential investors and they didn't know about it. And I'd even talk to some entrepreneurs and they didn't know about it. So I was like, wait a minute, how come nobody's really talking about this? Well, because it's still, even though it's 8 years ago, it's still new. People aren't talking about it enough because it hasn't been around long enough for people to have enough experience with it to be able to keep talking about it. So that's why I thought, wait a minute, I really think we're onto something here where we can get even more people involved. So if we want to see women, people of color get funding, we need to get more people who look like them in the room writing the checks. So that made me think, okay, I need to now get this information out to people, hence the podcast. And then, of course, the book that just came out in September, where I really just try to break down and make it so easy for people, because it can seem daunting. Oh, wait a minute, I could do this and I could do that. Wait, there's so many options. What do I do? I try to break it down so that everybody can kind of see where they might fit into the picture, because if they want to, there's a place for everyone. You can invest for as little as $50 with equity crowdfunding. You don't have to be a million. You don't have to be like the people you see on Shark Tank, flying in the private planes and having billions of dollars. You do not have to be like that. You can literally help people in your very own community. And it's really, really rewarding.
That's an amazing statement, and thank you for saying that. You are helping beat the odds of the big banks that, when you were not only grassroots, they have a hand on the community for startups, you're growing with your community, and it's such a reciprocating process. People who own several businesses know that every time you start a business, you don't want to go to the big banks. You want to go to your community because that's what's going to pay the most sustainable. And I just want to say a huge congratulations on your 2024 Women in Podcasting Award for the Angel Next Door. It's an outstanding achievement for you professionally, podcasting community, and our business community. Marcia, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I know, I was very excited. I had no idea.
So, Marcia, my question is really walking back a little bit to what I refer to as money mindset and thinking about the individuals that are hesitant to even talk about money and finances, that hesitate because of the story they tell themselves about money, whether it's because of the things they heard from their parents growing up, whether it's their early experiences. They hesitate to even open up a 401k or an IRA, much less think about investing in other people's businesses because they want to have access to their own money and they have this fear behind that relationship. What would you say to those early stage individuals that are really just tackling that first as they then step into the direction of how could I do good and do well at the same time? Because there's a space in between there for those individuals.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. Okay, money mindset. When we think about it, I mean, when I was growing up, talking about money was taboo, especially for women. It's the guys talked about that, like on the golf course or whatever they did. And women, we were kind of conditioned. We were brought up to say, no, we don't talk about that. That's in bad taste. But no, we need to be talking about it. We need to be talking about how we feel about money, how, what we think about it, what we want to do with it, what we care about. And that's why I'm so excited about all of the ways that people can start to participate that are at a lower barrier to entry so that you can start to use a little bit of your money if you are interested in helping some of these early stage companies and start to learn and really think about it. So when I wrote the book, I did think, hey, wait a minute, how can we start to talk about the word investing in a different way? Because in a lot of cases, when people hear the word investing, they think to themselves, wait a minute, if I invest, that means I have to get a financial return. And if I don't, well, I might look like a bad investor. And that's not going to be good. I'm not going to feel good about that. So how do we get past that idea that investing just is with money? Because you can invest so many other ways. You can invest with your time, your network, you can help companies, you can do so many other things. People volunteer and donate to charities all the time, which is fantastic. So that's an investment of some sorts, but people don't necessarily think about it like that. Like the term investing is like, oh, I just need to get a financial return, and if I don't, I'm going to look dumb. So I think if we can start again, it's kind of like we have this awareness problem. How can we get more people thinking about things a little bit differently? Like, if we could just slightly move that needle on how people feel about money and letting them feel more comfortable. And I actually think people don't feel comfortable just because they don't know enough about it. It's not talked about it enough. So we go back to, we just need to keep talking about it more. And the more we talk about it, the more people will feel comfortable with it. But I love the fact that you have a podcast like this about leading with purpose, because that's one of the things that we need to just keep doing. We need to talk about it, make people feel more comfortable, and then just kind of rinse and repeat.
No, and I love that. And I love the idea of expanding the conversation and even the definition of what investing can be. And the lowest barrier to entry for each individual can be different. But to recognize that you can monetarily get engaged with a small amount that you feel comfortable and that feels less risky, but then also to consider the other ways that you can contribute as you get yourself more comfortable with the exchange of energy that can be the definition of money for some people, and thinking about how that applies in each individual instance. So thank you. And I'm looking forward to reading your book, because it sounds like it offers a lot of accessible ways for people to consider and reframe their thoughts.
Yes. And I wrote the book really because it's something I wish I had, especially when I was younger. Like, imagine, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, imagine if I'd had this book when or knew about this, or, I mean, a lot of these things weren't really even available then, but that's beside details. Don't let details get in the way of a good story, right? So, but I would love to see younger people now learning about it. And maybe they don't have a lot of money to invest at this moment, but as they get older and they're working and they're saving and they start investing, well, now they're going to realize, wow, I have so many more options than, a typical mutual fund or whatever they're thinking. I don't even think we talk about the public markets enough. And the public markets, there's lots and lots of information about it. And there's lots of things that you see on the news and stuff like that. But the private markets, forget it. We're never talking about that. So yeah, again, just talking more about it. And as the younger people get older, then we'll have more money for all the people who are making cool innovations in the world.
And I'm so glad Dawn mentioned the money mindset because it really brought me to the mind of the documentary, Show Her the Money.
Yeah.
I love the film because it highlights the challenges that women face in securing that venture funding. So, as an associate producer, what key messages did you hope viewers take away from that film?
Yeah, well, television and media are just such a strong advocate for getting the word out, for just bringing awareness. And Catherine Gray, who is the executive producer, she's the brain behind the movie. She made a film years ago called "I Can't Marry You," and it was to bring awareness to gay marriage. And look at how far we've come with gay marriage in a long period of time. Now, did Catherine Gray single-handedly do that? Maybe. No, possibly, but she definitely had a hand in it. And, people talking about this type of investing, talking about venture capital, it all seems so foreign, like, oh, it can't be for me. I'm not rich and well connected, so it can't be for me. But it can be. And those are some of the things that I really think that the movie can bring out is let's start talking about the awareness piece. We're not even talking about investing, let alone when I've talked to so many people after they've seen the film. We were touring it around the country in 2024, and we went to over 100 different cities. It was crazy. And a bunch of us went to multiple cities and we would meet up. It was very fun. But, what we were trying to do was say, what did you really think about the movie when it was over? And so many people would say to us, oh my gosh, we just had no idea that there was such a disparity in how much funding was going to women and people of color. And like, what can we do to help? And now we're starting the conversation. So that's what I was really hoping that the movie would do. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again.
Yeah, and I think even for those who haven't watched it, if you even look at the trailer, it gets you amped to watch it because even then, they're bringing out points. You're like, wow, I did not realize that. And it makes you want to go, makes you want to dive in and to hear all the stories that the individuals are sharing about their journey. So just very important work that I think that needs to continue on. So I'm really glad that you were a part of that. And I'm sure it's going to be more to come because very exciting film. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Sharon, this is probably our third or fourth guest that when I went to their website and watched their trailers, it affected me emotionally because it's the lady who said that, she was running out of money. I felt it in my heart. I'm on the board of a nonprofit who is launching a financial literacy program that's really unique and fun and special. But I have taken on the role of Debbie Downer, and I'm normally the cheerleader. We could do it. We can do it. We could do it. What is your advice for the women, all of us who have multi-million-dollar ideas? What is our first step when we're trying to seek funding?
Oh, geez, that's such a good question. That's like the $1 million question, right?
That's the $1 million question.
It is, right? So what I always talk to entrepreneurs about is looking at the life cycle of your business. So in a lot of cases, like I mentioned before, sometimes you don't necessarily want to be raising money right away. Even though it seems like that's absolutely, I just need money. If I just had money, I could get here, there, or wherever they're going. But what I've seen too many founders do is start to get money and raise money, but they don't really have a lot of traction yet. So in order to get the money, they have to give away a lot of the company. And that is where things can get really upside down really fast. And I hate to see that for founders because what they're working on is so important. And you don't want them to get to a point where they're giving away, too much. So I kind of like what you were saying about, you want to be a cheerleader, but you have to be, the realistic person too, to make sure like, hey, wait a minute, when is funding appropriate? And now that there are so many different ways that people can get money, I think it's really important that entrepreneurs really understand all of the different ways. And one thing that I talk about in my book, and it resonates especially with women very well, is you can take in philanthropic dollars for your for-profit company as an investment. It will never go back to the donor because the donor's already taken their tax deduction. But usually you do it through a donor advised fund, or there's a couple other ways. If you read the book, you'll find out. But that's something that can help for-profit companies as well. And there's sometimes more access to that type of capital. There is actually hundreds of billions of dollars sitting in donor advised funds. And the donor advised fund is where someone would donate money. It will eventually go to a charity, but it's kind of like in a holding period. And those donor advised funds are with Fidelity and all kinds of different financial institutions. And they are usually invested in stocks or mutual funds or whatever in the time that they're waiting to kind of get to the 501c3 or get to the charity. So that can be used to invest in a for-profit company. So these are all of the ways that I always encourage entrepreneurs to learn about, the types of funding that they can use. All of the ways that you can crowdfund also I think are incredible. So if entrepreneurs really understood that, I think it would help them to think about the whole life cycle of how much money they're going to need in order to grow the business to where they want it.
Thank you for that information. I mean, that's exactly, I cannot wait to share this with all of my clients, and especially the nonprofit. I'm going to buy them the book because the life cycle is exactly what we're talking about. And we're in the traction phase. How do we get traction for what we're trying to do? I cannot wait to share this.
Wow. So Marcia, and to you and Maisha's point, there are so many million-dollar ideas. However, as a mother, is everyone a winner? You try to be honest and say, listen, great idea. Where's your data? So as someone who supports mission-driven companies focused on issues like water, health, social good, and medical advances, Marcia, what criteria do you personally look for when deciding which startups to back, and what makes a company stand out to you beyond their financials? So we're talking differentiators here.
Yeah. So one of the things I wish I'd had, and this is something that I write a lot about in the book, is an investment thesis. So I had what I call shiny halo syndrome. I was like, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that entrepreneur. Oh my God, I love them. I love them so much. I want to invest in every single one of them. Okay. So I did that a little bit too much at the beginning. And so I caution people, do not be like me, start investing in lots of things right away. Better to wait, better to look around, better to get to know people, get to know the companies. But that investment thesis of being able to say, like, look, these are the things I care about. These are the things that I want to take my little pool, my little bucket of money that I'm going to use for angel investing. I'm going to take that money and I'm going to use it for the things that I care about. And here is that list. And, maybe there's 3 or 4 things on that list that would, that would make it into your investment thesis. And then start to look for those types of companies, start to network with the people that know about those companies. In a lot of cases across the country, there's angel groups, and angel groups like to invest as a group. Why? Because there's expertise and knowledge in the group. I love life science companies and love all the science stuff. I'm not a scientist, though. I have no business making a decision about whether we can invest in a science company. I have no business in it because I don't have that background. But when you're in a group, you can get to know other people who have that type of background, and you can start to pool your expertise together. So where I might know more about operations or marketing or something like that, somebody else might have that science background. So together as a group, we can look at the company and really start to evaluate. Because you're right, the financials in a lot of cases, you want to see the scalability of the company, but anything that they're putting on paper as far as their financial projections is 100% wrong. And it's just that way with everybody. It's just because it's a projection, I'm like, every projection is wrong. Even like the people who try to do it in the public markets, it's a projection. So you can get close, but is that a reality? So yes, you want to look at the financials, but especially at a startup level. Now you got to look at all of the things like the team. Not only is the team good and can they build the company? Do they know about the product that they're building, but do they get along? That's another thing that's come up. Hey, what happens when I don't like you anymore and then I don't want to be a part of this company anymore? Have you thought about that? Okay, all of those types of things. Those are a lot of questions you got to ask early on. And then thinking about like, are people going to buy this? Are they really going to buy it? Have you talked to them? Have you done surveys? Have you started to ask for feedback? Have you put out an MVP, a minimum viable product? Let them try something and let them tell you, oh, yes, I like this. Just because they say they're going to buy it doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to buy it. So all of those things are things that we do in the diligence process in order to kind of see, like, is this a company that we really want to invest in? So it really does, like you say, go way beyond the financial projections.
Absolutely. It's almost as if we're in Costco and we're trying to test tourism. Do we really go back and buy that bag of pretzels? We just had a good run. It seems like the bottom line is, we aim for sustainability when we invest, Marcia, and just personal feels, community, how's it going to benefit us? But all great factors for us to all think about as small businesses when we try to attract those investors. Thank you.
So, Marcia, my question is really for a subset of our audience, which are these emerging leaders. You have so many things that you've done to get your message out to the world. You've published your book, you have done tours, you did book signings, you did your TEDx talk, the documentary. So you have a lot of opportunity to share your message. If somebody is looking at that bucket list of ideas of ways they can get their message out, where would you, based on your experience, tell them to start, and what's the one tip that you would give them when saying yes to that project, knowing that the other ones can come in the future, but where would you recommend that they start?
Yeah, I'd probably have people now that the book is out start with the book. I did write a workbook to go with it. And the workbook does talk a lot about your money mindset before you start to think about where you're going to invest or how you're going to invest. But I also have some cool exercises in the workbook, like doing a mock portfolio with equity crowdfunding sites. So that can be kind of fun, and also fun for a family adventure if you all want to get around the kitchen table and talk about different companies. I know that it's been a great dinner time conversation with my family, talking about what entrepreneurs are working on, how they think about money, how entrepreneurs have to raise money. And I know that my stepkids have all said, well, what if we wanted to be an entrepreneur? And we were always like, absolutely, you can do that. But that isn't something that's talked about at every dinner table. So it's almost like this is a cool thing that you can do just to engage your family. And the exercise in the workbook it's a mock thing. There's no money involved. It's just like, it's kind of like if you just went and did a mock portfolio for the stock market. You just do it on an equity crowdfunding site, but you get to see a lot of the cool things that people are working on.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I know that will be helpful for those that are just starting out and trying to find their next right decision.
Well, Marcia, we want to say thank you. Thank you for being our guest. We would love to give you this space to share your contact information where people can listen to your podcast, where they can purchase your book, and all the information that you would like to share.
Sure. You can find everything on my website. It's simply Marcia, Marcia, Dawood, Dawood, maishabcap.com. Everything's there, the podcast, the book. There's lots of free resources. You can actually download the introduction and the first chapter of the book for free. And there's a sample of the audio book there. The other thing I will say is after I'm almost at 100 episodes of the podcast, I started to talk to people and they would say to me, well, you know what? I'm kind of interested in equity crowdfunding. I'd be like, okay, great. Go and listen to, and I'd start to like rattle off, the episodes, and they'd be like, oh, I have to write all this down, So I said, okay, wait a minute. I need a playlist, like my own playlist. So on my website now, you can click on under the podcast tab, equity crowdfunding. It'll show you all the episodes that are related to that. Using philanthropic money, all the episodes related to that. So people can go there and kind of choose their own adventure. You don't necessarily have to be listening in any particular order. You can kind of see all the different things that we talk about. But money mindset is a big one. I've had a couple people come on the podcast to talk about that, but that's definitely something you're going to see more of in 2025.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. And to our audience, to our listeners and our viewers, we want to thank you as well. Thank you for joining another episode of Leading with Purpose podcast. Again, I am Dr. Sharon H. Porter.
I'm Maisha B. Hoye.
I am Janelle E. Taylor.
And I'm Dawn Marie Bornheimer. As you navigate your leadership journey, remember that leading with purpose is not just a philosophy, it is a commitment to making a positive impact.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your network. And don't forget to subscribe so you will never miss an opportunity to explore the intersection of leadership and purpose.
Continue to lead, empower, inspire, and achieve.
And until next time, lead with passion, lead with a positive intention, and by all means, continue to lead with purpose. Thank you for joining the Leading with Purpose podcast. Please join us every Monday for a new episode.